Mutants and X-Men characters are easily some of the most unrepresented characters in LEGO, with there only ever being 2 full X-Men sets ever being released, with some characters sprinkled in either mech sets or the Daily Bugle for Firestar. But luckily for us, custom minifigure companies are filling in the gaps where LEGO isn't. I have 2 different X-Men character LEGO figures to review today by KO Customs. Something cool about these prints is on the back they are numbered. For my Beast figure, I have 99 out of 100. It's almost got the last one. And for the Colossus, I think I have 22 if I remember right. And each figure is individually bagged. For Colossus, with that silver printing, they kind of package some of the different parts separately. The first figure is Beast, which is their older release. It has 360 printing, except for on the sides of the torso, which is fine with me, since the arms would be moving against it anyway, it might get damaged. The hairpiece is a custom molded part. Plastic quality on it looks a bit cheap and the color is a little off. In the right lighting though, wouldn't be that noticeable. It's the same as the Wolverine hair. And from what I can tell, the mold lines are a bit deeper on the blue one. And the angle in that split is much sharper. Unfortunately, its alternative face is poking through the bottom, which is another thing it has, an angrier face on the back. So it's good to have some options. That calmer expression reminds me a lot of the X-Men animated version of this character. So if you're gonna have it in battle, you want that angry one. And if you want it in like an X-Mansion teaching sort of scenario, this nice calmer one is much more familiar. Basically the design just has different fur lines throughout it and claws on the bottom. One thing that I'm not a super huge fan of, but I guess I can appreciate that they did, is that there is some printing on the back of the legs to continue on his trunk design. One unfortunate thing about having those trunks printed on is if you bend them in different ways, the printing breaks up, since the base color is that lighter blue. That happens on both sides of the legs. Overall, the printing quality is pretty clean on this, and I'm glad to have another X-Men. Let's move on to Colossus. Unlike Beast, Colossus only has single-sided heads, but it does come with 2 different heads. It seems like the body is printed with that metallic coloring. It isn't like that by default, and they include light gray hands to swap out for those silver ones if you want them to be holding anything. That way you don't damage the silver. Again, has that 360 printing, which is pretty awesome. Just missing the sides of the torso, which is just fine with me. Let's pop off this head and I'll take off the shoulder pieces as well. I know in some appearances he ends up having a shirtless look without the shoulder pads. So it's nice to have more options. The belt's printed on this as well, so you're not missing that. And the shoulder pads are another custom molded part and are based off of those hockey pads that LEGO made in the collectible minifigure series. But it's cast in red instead of dark blue or whatever other color. It does seem like it matches the rest of the body though, which is good. And it also helps to make him a bit taller. The other head print is a more concerned look, a little less angry. And for this one, I'll pop on that hair piece as well. If I could have changed anything about this figure, I would have had a custom molded hair piece, but that might have made it more expensive, which would have been a bummer. But I like the look from the movies where he has that smoother hair. Maybe you can go through and sand this to change it up a bit. But it is still pretty iconic Colossus having that hairstyle. And like I said earlier, they did include some extra hands that are just light gray. That way you can swap these ones out and not damage the silver. I threw on one of those gray hands just so you can see what it looks like. Honestly, not that noticeable. The red bands go across the arms, so it breaks up the color. Obviously, this one is a bit more shiny, but if you have both of them at the same color, you won't be able to tell the difference. Also, unlike Beast, you bend these legs, since they are red, it keeps the color together and makes it a little bit more smooth throughout. And Colossus ends up just having a bit more of an aesthetically pleasing back leg, just because the colors work in its favor. And it's very cool to be getting some more characters from that giant size X-Men team. And this ends up being such a rabbit hole for me, and it's why I've avoided collecting superheroes for so long, because you need to keep completing the team. And because I already missed some releases from KO Customs, I don't have the Nightcrawler, and the Iceman that they've also made is another figure that is on my list. And now that I started buying them, I probably have to keep buying them. The quality is really there, and the designs are so classic. That is Colossus, just straight out of the comic books into plastic form. And at the end of the day, I'm just so disappointed that LEGO hasn't gone ahead and made any X-Men characters outside of Wolverine several times and Deadpool for different Comic-Cons. There's so much potential, and maybe it is just that the older X-Men sets didn't sell that well, but make a set worth buying and then also have fun figures in it that aren't Wolverine. I just knew that after I built my Lego Sentinel that I needed more X-Men to fight it, and that helped me justify buying these. Unfortunately, the Beast figure is sold out now, but if you want to get this Colossus, you still can at kocustoms.com. I'll have the website in the description. I would recommend it if you're a fan of the X-Men. I know I had to get this one, and I'm very excited to see what other sort of X-Men characters that they'll be having out in the future. If you want to see more videos about custom figures and you like this one, don't forget to subscribe and like. I've been Brick Radiop, and I'll see you in the next video.